Hello and welcome to the last weekly real estate update for the month of April. What? Where did April go, Jaden Bax?
I don't know. Like the spring market just happened, and then all of a sudden we're here.
I know.
I don't know what's going on.
I know. It's been pretty crazy, like how this month has flown by. And let's get right now to our weekly stats. And we're going to tell you a little bit of a story that I think is maybe transpiring here. We talked a little bit about it last week. Last week, we talked about, is the market changing? And I think the answer to that is yes. We're seeing really a longer trend than this because I can only fit so many weeks on this chart. Otherwise, you would need a microscope to see the numbers. But interestingly, really same new listing story as last week, only 367. But we had a sold and pending at 433, 371 for a total of 804. But again, that's pretty good for this week. A little bit down from last week. But if you look 5 weeks ago, we're definitely trending in a downward direction for sales. But what I find very fascinating is we're also trending downwards for new listings. Like back at the end of March, we had 515 new listings, then 486, 489, 356, bumped up a little this week. Could we see a whole bunch of people throw their houses on the market in the next week? For sure. As always, we watch it every week, but I think it's just very, very fascinating. We're not only seeing sales drop, but also new listings. So super interesting as far as I'm concerned. Are people kind of going, well, the craziness of January and February are over in March, so I'm going to wait? I don't know. I don't know. What I'm telling my clients is do it now. Like I have a listing coming up in Airdrie, and this is going to be a great one. If you know people that are looking for a beautifully finished 2-story home with front attached garage and a fully finished, legalized, fully permitted suite in Kings Heights, DM me. Slide into my DMs, as the kids say. But I told them, it's like, ideally we would have had this on a month ago, but the next best time is this week. So anyway, so they're doing that. So our total sold plus pending 804, net difference of 437. Price reduced, check that out, 252 price reductions. That's the highest it's been for sure since the start of this year, for sure. Is it a blip? We will see next week. But even clients of mine are saying, Mark, I'm noticing more price reductions. I'm like, well, there's always going to be price reductions. No conditions ever perfect where every house sells for the exact, for list price. And, because people are just being a little optimistic, shall we say, in some circumstances. And these are detached price reductions, right? So our total detached listings bumped up a little to 1853. And then our total listings also up slightly to 3716. When we look at the trends from last year, same week last year, what I find super interesting is we basically now, this year has caught up to last year, if we could use that term. So our total sales and our new listings are basically the same as they were last year this week. What is significantly different, though, still is our active is still 21% below where we were last year. And that's what's creating a lot of the seller's market conditions that we're in right now, because we still don't have, look at the active listings last year, 6,000. We're only at 4,700. And this includes pendings, right? But that's a massive, massive difference for a city of our size. And then on the pending side, still blowing the doors off of last year. And then you see your pricing and our days on market. That's been tracking 20 to 23 days, really, since we started this little experiment of looking back at last year. And over to you, Jaden, with the interest rates for the week.
Yeah, for sure. I think you just probably sold that house in Kings Heights just right now, right? So you'll have about 4 or 5 offers for that. Right after the video, you'll be on your phone going, It's great. Like you say, last month was great, but things are still going fantastic. And interest rates are doing what they're doing. They're continuing to slowly go up. We know that we're going to see more variable rate hikes this year. One thing I want to talk about is, we had a really serious discussion, me and some other colleagues, about this yesterday. There's a lender out there, one of the new kids on the block for us that several of my colleagues have tried out because they're significantly better on rate than a lot of the other people out there right now. And they just don't have the capacity, and they just don't have the ability to close these deals, right? And so we saw this actually late last year and early this year with one of the big banks that kind of aggressively entered into the mortgage market again, and were beating everybody on rates, one of the big international banks. And they simply did not have the capacity to keep up to the demand. And so, you would have people going in there that would take, 2, 3, 4 weeks just to get a commitment before they even looked at any documents, right? And so,
wow.
It's just crazy when we talk about, we deal in, generally speaking, 10 business days, easily can get things done in 5. These people are waiting, 20, 25 business days just to get a commitment, maybe 35 to get all the paperwork done. So it's one of those things, you're going to see out on the internet a lot, and you always see these great, amazing rates. The question is, can you close with that rate, or is that just something to get you into that orbit, and then you close with something else later on, right? So
it's sorry to interject, but it's like the Canadian Tire flyer with the lost leader on the front page, and they have in fine print they have 2 of them, in the whole store, right? Like they can't. There's no capacity for it, and that's. I will say that about Jayden, and we do pump each other's tires because it is what it is. But the truth of the matter is, when you work with somebody like Jayden, you can get a deal closed in a much shorter amount of time than even. And the banks have their place for sure, and Jayden says that there's certain things he can't do, the banks can, very few things. But I just had another situation with a buyer client where it was like, I won't say like pulling teeth to get the person from the bank to respond, but it was not the same. And those are commissioned mobile mortgage people, right? So I don't know what the backlog is at the banks and why it takes them so much longer to respond. But when you have somebody like Jayden working for you, your response times are just much, much quicker. I mean, both Jayden and I think it's fair to say this, have a standard of service that I know for me, it's within 2 hours of you texting me, emailing me, calling me, I will get back to you. And it's probably the same for you, right, Jayden?
Yeah, 100%. Unless I'm an early to bed guy, so unless you catch me on that 9:30 text, then I'm going to get back to you the next day. But generally speaking, during business hours, absolutely. And one of the things that I'll say about that too, I know some of my lenders are taking longer to turn things around right now too, and so we prepare everybody for that situation. If that's the rate for you, that's the product for you, that's the lender for you, you have to be prepared that, okay, we need those 10 business days, and it's gonna get all the last details ironed out on the 10th business day, right? So just about being honest and upfront with our clients, and I think you and I are both great at that. Always being honest and keeping them up to date with where we're at in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool stuff. All right, one little bonus slide today. So we got market status. Not surprisingly, we are in a seller's market. So what does that mean? So seller's market is when there are more buyers than there are sellers. And we've been in this seller's market realistically since 2022 started. And so we look at 2 things. What percentage of all active listings are selling? Almost over 94% of active listings. And this is across all segments sold in March, which is that is just an unbelievable stat, like mind blown, if I could put a mind blown emoji in there right now. And then the other thing we look at is months of supply. So, typically it's around a month, depending on which community you're in. But if you say Calgary as a whole, my guesstimate, I think last time I looked, it was around 1.15 or 1.25 months of supply. So if no more listings hit the market, how long would it take for all those listings to sell? And so when we're under, I believe it's around 2 months, then we're very much seller's market. I remember a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, probably 3 to 4 years ago now, actually, we would have 4 and 5 and 6 months of supply, especially on the apartment condo side. And that's one thing that's actually changing too. Apartment condos, like we talked about in our wrap up of March, they're up 6%, Like it's just absolutely nuts what's going on. So if people say to me, is the market changing? Sure, it's changed a little bit. We're not seeing the 10 and 20 offers maybe that we saw, but can you still get above asking price, or at least way above? It's all relative to what you paid for the house, right? So these people that I'm talking about in Airdrie, they bought in 2018. I believe it's 2018. I'm talking to a 2018 client and a 2019 client. They both did new builds. They're both going to make out like bandits. So it funds whatever they want to do next. So anyway, that is the update for this week. Any final thoughts, Jayden? Should people be locking in rates? What should people be doing right now? Because there's still a lot of interest rate news.
No. No, the answer is no. So those people that are, I get this a lot. Variable's going to go up. It's also going to come back down in the next, this next 5-year cycle. I think if we average out what your mortgage would be, this is the worst time, or close to the worst time, to lock in, right? Like maybe a couple of weeks from now it'll be even worse. Maybe a month from now it'll be even worse. Maybe by this fall it will be worse. But we are close to what I would consider the peak of where rates are going to be. So absolutely not. If it makes you sleep better at night to know what your payment is going to be, you got to do what you got to do. I don't think it's good business, and I just don't think it's the time to be making those decisions.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Appreciate the input. And, from my side of things, I think to me, it's not the same as it was January, February, March, but that doesn't mean there's not a massive opportunity for you as a seller. And certainly contact me for all your buying tips and tricks that I can help you with to get your, specifically on the detached side where there's more competition, to get your offer accepted. With that, we will end things and talk to everyone.
Hi, guys.
Everybody.